Uh, Took a shower during lunch today, but doesn't feel like it. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, is a tradition that many YouTube cooking channels, or at least the smaller cooking channels, have been doing for the past several years now. As well as you can see already, we have an excuse to go onto YouTube and make a video about our cast iron because, well, we really enjoy using our cast iron, whether it's cooking in cast iron or collecting cast iron or showing off the collection and showing you that I am definitely. I have a case of what they call cast ironitis. Nonetheless, we've been doing this here on YouTube for a number of years now. We are just about at the 4-year anniversary here on this YouTube channel of doing these videos, these live videos, almost every Wednesday. There have been a couple of instances where I've had to cancel and some where I've had to postpone it. But in general, we try to aim for Cast Iron Wednesday. And so that's why I'm glad to be here once again, really to say hi to all of you folks, especially the ones who've been kind enough to show up here on a regular basis here on this channel. I mean, I guess I'm doing something right. Probably it has more, probably you're here more for the cast iron than anything else, and so that's why I'm more than happy to be talking about my favorite vintage brand of cast iron tonight. But hello to everybody who's been kind enough to show up here. Hello to Rick Stumbow tonight, and Rocket Caver, and Val's Black Cat's Rules, and congratulations and happy second anniversary to Val. And hello to Kimberly Miller and Radagast and Cynthia Wesley and Pip Gorn. Hello to everybody and Fuzzfork8, and hello Kevin Brown, to the folks here who have a number of folks who I'm very familiar with your names by now, and some new names as well, which is always nice. Hello to Stephen O'Neill, for instance, and it's always glad to see folks here. And hello to Rusty Iron. Based on your name, I'm guessing you must have at least a few cast iron pans in your collection as well. So, yes, I mean, and that's why tonight is our annual monthly discussion of cast iron. I wanted to put a theme to it tonight, really to give us something, hopefully something interesting to talk about, but also because well, recently, as folks who have been following the cast iron community know, especially on Facebook, there have been some arguments about a particular brand of cast iron that is probably my favorite vintage brand of cast iron, and that, of course, would be Birmingham Stove and Range. A number of folks here probably know about BS&R. A few folks might not, and while I'm not going to try to talk your ear off much, I will say, at least I'll be very brief here. Birmingham Stove and Range is probably maybe the largest, or maybe even the second largest producer of cast iron cookware in the United States for a fair amount of the 20th century. And yet their pans are largely unknown, except to people who have actually gone out of their way to collect them. Largely because they were a subsidiary of Atlanta Stove Works. I mean, their business really for most of their existence was actually producing stoves. And yet they found a big business and a huge source of revenue in producing cast iron cookware. At first, it was to supplement those stoves, but eventually they just simply started producing inexpensive or even cheap cast iron pans that they produced in enormous quantities and shipped them all over the country. They did this for decades, from the early 1900s all the way up to the year 1992, when they finally had to declare, well, actually, January 1993, they had to declare bankruptcy, and well, then they went out of business. But until then, again, they produced a huge number of cast iron pans, and they were generally sold pretty much everywhere at low prices. Were the type of pans you could get at hardware stores, at Montgomery Ward and Woolworths, and those cheaper places, probably A and P. I barely have any memories of A and P, unfortunately, but I know they were big. They were like the Walmart of the middle 20th century or so. But yeah, these were the type of pans that generally considered to be so cheap that just about everybody had one of their pans in their kitchen, probably didn't even know it. And chances are, even today, you folks watching this video here, I'm betting almost all of you have a BS&R pan in your kitchen right now. Most of you probably know it because obviously you're here on this channel. Some of you might not, but nonetheless, this was definitely. I've been fascinated by the history and the mystery of Birmingham Stove and Range since I started learning how to cook in cast iron, and that's why there was an appeal to me to the point where I went out of my way to amass a decent collection of BS&R pans, and I've done a fair amount of research as well, although it doesn't compare to the research that have been done on the YouTube groups that are especially dedicated to cast iron, to BS&R. I've learned a lot from those Facebook groups, and they are really what helped me to compile the information I have on my website, as well as the videos I've done here on this channel. But yes, as we say here, hello as well to everybody. Probably close to 40 pieces in my collection, says Monkey Wrench, and I dare say a fair number of them are probably BS&R as well. Radagast. I picked up a BS&R number 7 at an estate sale for $9. It's one of those questionable ones. Huh. Oh, I see. You're talking about questionable, as in we don't know whether it's early century or later red mountain. The important part is that it's a good BS&R pan, and I have no doubt that you probably already have been getting a lot of use out of it. I mean, that's the real reason really to own these pans, because they are probably some of the best cast iron pans ever made, or at least I think so. Will say that they are definitely thicker and heavier than Griswold and Wagner, but that has always been my preference when it comes to cast iron. Other folks may feel differently. That really, of course, is a matter of opinion. And yes, stole it, Red. Exactly. Good price, whichever one it is. Exactly. Yes. I found cast iron I hid under my sofa. I completely believe it, Corey Clark. And just got in from having dinner with friends. Hello, Pat Z. Nice to see you here. But yes, as I mentioned already, especially thanks to the internet, where there are fandom groups for everything these days, there is indeed a large and thriving and growing cast iron community, again, especially on Facebook. Um, and that is why the drama has been going around, especially recently, and the arguments all about little pieces of history from folks who actually really mean well. That's the thing, is that what we're trying to do, all of us, well, yeah, I would say all of us, we are trying to get the history of BS&R as accurate as possible. This is difficult because the company went out of business about 3 decades ago. A number of their records have been lost. They had at least a couple of factory fires, where especially their early records are still largely, mostly unknown, and just really what we know about them has come from research and digging, and in a number of cases from detective work as well. And that especially deals with the Red Mountain series of cast iron pans. There's a lot of details about the Red Mountain series that are unknown and may very well always be unknown, but people have been making educated guesses. And that's where the arguments have come in. And some of those arguments have gotten to the point where, unfortunately, yeah, it's actually affected people's friendships, I'm sorry to say. I'm not going to get into the drama because I don't really care too much about the drama. Other people do care about the drama, and that's why, even to the point where at this moment on Facebook, there are a number of groups, as I said, dedicated especially to identifying and collecting and restoring cast iron. There are two especially that are dedicated to Birmingham Stove and Range. The one that I have been on really from the beginning, and I have people there who I consider to be online friends. They're currently there on Facebook under the name of Cast Iron Friends, which is a nice way to say it. And they deal especially with BS&R and Lodge, but really any pans are all well within the acceptable point of discussion there. I mean, they regularly talk about Griswold and other foundries and gate mark pieces, but they really go out of their way to score BS&R pans. And as I said, I've learned a lot about that. There, some of the historians on that group, however, really have had some, well, again, they have had difficulty getting along together to the point where a number of them broke off and founded a second Facebook group dedicated to cast iron cookware as BS&R as well. And that group, I will only be honest, and I'm not trying to get pity or anything like that. Maybe a couple of weeks or so ago, I literally discovered that I've been banned from that group. And this happened probably a couple of weeks or so after I posted a comment on that particular BSNR group, which got me into a discussion. I'm going to call it a discussion with one of the moderators on there again over the history of the Red Mountain series versus the early Century series. And in the end, our little discussion pretty much ended up with the moderator in question saying, "We'll have to agree to disagree." And I left it at that because I'm not interested in arguing. Unfortunately, as I said, maybe a week or two after that, I suddenly discovered that I've been banned from that Facebook group, which just means Facebook drama. So that's just how it is. But that doesn't change the fact that there is a lot of unknown information still, especially regarding Birmingham Stove Range, that folks are definitely interested in finding out. I know I am. And so we're really just doing whatever research we can to try to uncover the history of this very fascinating company here. Yeah, and hello, Fuzz Fork 8. You're correct, but since I got the red book and the blue book, which opened my mind, yes, exactly. Yeah, you're not living until you're banned on social media. Yeah, I know. Oh, I've been banned from a Facebook group. How could I ever sleep at night? So, but nonetheless, as I said, I'm not even gonna really get much into that subject. So, well, don't worry, Val's Black Cats rules. It'll probably happen at some point nonetheless. Yeah, but I mean, even though I'm bringing that subject up, if you get banned talking about something you like, then it really doesn't matter. I was taught to do well. Yes, exactly. I know, and believe me, I've been online since the late 1980s, so I have literally spent more than half my life online, from dial-up BBSs all the way to the internet, and I have had more than my share of drama and arguments and I just really brush most of it off. So I'm not concerned about that at all. And as I said, I'm not even going to get into that. Um, but but nonetheless, it's an excuse to talk about that particular subject. Although this again is a YouTube live chat session, and for everybody really, no questions about cast iron here really are off the table here. So I mean, even if you want to talk about ugly hammered pans and Griswold, or modern day butter pats, or stargazer, or field skillets, please feel free. Feel free, as always, to comment, ask, and answer questions here. Oh, speaking of butter pat, it was pointed out butter pat. Apparently, the butter pat brand has been canceled. In that, I mean, we know that the Yeti company bought butter pat, and we know that butter pat is producing that Yeti cast iron pan. If you go on to Butter Pat's own website, you'll see they are no longer selling Butter Pat cast iron. So that obviously means Yeti has absorbed uh, Butter Pat into its company. And so essentially that means Butter Pat as a brand apparently is no longer there. So it is now, I don't know the details. I mean, I don't even follow it closely. This is all I know. I would think, though, that we're going to be seeing the Yeti brand cast iron pan from that company from now on. So, you know what that means? we've got collector's items. That's what it means. So yeah, I mean, thanks to Louis J. As I pointed this out before, he was kind enough to give me with this amazing butter pat. I'd say this is like maybe a bigger than a number five, maybe a number six size pan here, which is indeed a butter pat. And yeah, and there's a story behind why it actually has my name on it, but I'll get into that another time because this is a BS&R discussion. But hey, look at that. Thanks to him, this is a collector's item. Not that I ever intend to sell it. I mean, I mean, barring some disaster in the unforeseeable future, I certainly intend to keep a great part of my collection at least until I pass away. Because you know what they say: if I can't take it with me, then I ain't going. Anyway, yeah. Approximately Doug Dean Reedy, approximately 1889, 1993, company merger and name changes were involved. Yes, they were. How many of us have a pan with our name on it? Yeah, I know, Radagast. I mean, believe me, that's why I was absolutely astounded to receive that as a gift. And I did not ask for it. And he really pretty much sent it out of the blue. Oh, so yeah, I guess I'm in his debt for that. Nonetheless, it'll be sold. Modem. Oh, it'll be sold. We are merely temporary keepers. Oh, you're talking about my cast iron collection. Well, I'm sure. Well, no, obviously that once I pass on one of these days, hopefully not for a long time yet, I'm sure arrangements will be made for my cast iron collection. But that's something to deal with in the future. Right now we're kind of talking about the past here, so that's where I think I'm going to keep it. My feed did not kick in. Oh, hello, William Hurt. Well, no, we can see you just fine. Wow, my feed did not kick in. I think that says until now, but yeah, we can definitely see you, William Hurt. And I saw what you said about how you had a BS&R number 7 that unfortunately cracked and caused a grease fire, and I'm sorry to hear that. That kind of reminds me that that video I have on the front page of my YouTube channel, the one where I set my stove on fire, that was a BS&R number 7 that I used, in fact, to intentionally cause that fire. So yes, and yes, it was indeed warped. So, okay. Well, yeah, and good to see you as well. Yeah, we'll break into your stash when you're gone. Well, when I'm gone, who knows what'll happen. Okay, lucky seven. Yes, indeed. Lucky seven for me anyway is a gate mark pan. However, I do have a BS&R number 7 that I might as well bring out since we are talking about these, because I guess this is a good example of the Red Mountain series. We've seen this pan before. I've shown this pan a number of times, and this is one reason why BS&R is my favorite vintage brand. Say hello once again to Lightning. And again, as I said, anybody who's been on this channel for a while, you've probably seen Lightning before. He is, in fact, a BS&R Red Mountain, and this is what they call the handwritten pan because of the way the 7P size number and mold ID letter were put on the pattern for the molds. Obviously, this was done by hand. So this pan could very well date to the 1930s, maybe the 1920s or so. And yeah, it has these casting flaws on the bottom that look like cracks, but they're not. On the other hand, they also look like bolts of lightning. And that, plus the fact, the more important fact, that this pan here seems to cook food like lightning, I feel this one has definitely earned its nickname of lightning. And having said that, let's take a look at the ears, the pour spouts of this pan here. And this is what all the controversy is about, because apparently the ears here are what help to identify the age of a BS&R pan, although it's not absolute. There have indeed been examples found of older Red Mountain pans with small pour spouts, and there have been examples of Century pans with larger pour spouts. Over on the BS&R group that I mentioned, there have been comments from BS&R employees, in fact, including the former president of the company, who pointed out that during the days when they transitioned to automated production, the DISA automated production in the 1960s, they did in fact take a number of older Red Mountain patterns and just simply convert them to Century. So yeah, it was not an absolute changeover. They did not suddenly stop producing one design and then start producing another design. There was a kind of like an overlap, and that is where the so-called controversy comes into. All right. Lightning looks just like my mom's old Red Mountain #7 with the big spouts, a lighter pan than most BS&Rs. Yeah, the size is this. There is actually quite a bit of difference in the size as well. My Century 7 is my cornbread pan. Yes, exactly, and that's what I mean about BS&R being such a great pan to cook with. I mean, everybody here, anybody who uses a BS&R knows that it's a real workhorse. So definitely, I can only agree with everybody on that. Cynthia Wesley, I get sad for you, William, when you talk about, oh, yeah, dear Pete. Yeah, that's right. Some things are priceless. Yes, that is true. But, well, all we can do really is just remember the memories. And, well, there is always the possibility, of course, that you could find another one to replace it. So, I mean, these things are definitely priceless, but they're not irreplaceable. And that, of course, is why, for a great part of the 20th century, cast iron pans were just considered frying pans. They were just considered disposable, so to speak, in that they could very well just be thrown out and you could always go to the store and get another one. I've taken flack for saying that too, for calling these things disposable. How dare I say that? But really, that was the attitude towards these frying pans that most people had for a great part, again, for a great part of the 20th century. In fact, there was this interview with the former president of BS&R about the history of the company. And as he pointed, and his quote regarding all this was, "We just made skillets." So, yeah, apparently the popularity of BS&R and the internet and everything took him off guard. And he was really surprised to see how suddenly these frying pans that they were really just a product that they made for revenue, that suddenly has become collectible items, and they're considered to be works of art. And it's, I mean, really, for our older folks, it's still astounding. Yes, we all talk about cast iron. I really get excited about very old cast iron and who ate out of it. Does that sound weird? Not one bit. That's the thing about vintage cast iron that really you can't capture with modern day cast iron. I mean, as much as they're putting so much effort into making cast iron pans nowadays that really are works of art, there is just the history of these pans really that you just get when you cook in something that could very well be 80, 90, 100 years old. And then of course we get into the gate mark pans that go back to the Civil War era days. So yes, we're on. Yeah, that is one of the things about these pans, and this is why I have occasionally sounded like a real weirdo when I talk about things like cooking magic. But yeah, there's almost like a mystical feel of thinking about the history of this particular 3S pan from BS&R. In fact, this one, by the way, is from their Rare S series, which is. It was discovered by internet historians and researchers that BS&R put out a short-lived series of pans, the S series. They were marked with an S like this. And these are sized slightly smaller than the standard pans of these size numbers. BS&R put these pans out to compete with some other local foundry. It was not Lodge Cast Iron. And I don't think the identity of the other foundry was ever discovered. But nonetheless, these were meant to be compatible with the sets from that other foundry. So they did produce this for, oh, I don't know, maybe a decade or so at least. And so, largely because the S series is something a little different and out of the ordinary, antique vendors, at least the ones who know about BS&R, they of course have been calling this the Rare S series. And as always, they've been marking them up with much higher prices than they deserve. So this particular one is a little unusual because you see how it's got this font on it, where it almost looks not so much typewritten, but it's definitely different from the typical Red Mountain lettering. This is believed to have been like maybe the last generation or the last series of the S series pan. And yeah, they really produced these pans on the cheap, because look at this hanging hole here on this, how awkward this thing is, and how this thing even has, for some reason, looks like four divots. Let me try to angle this right. Get this over here. This thing here has four divots, four tiny little marks in the side. I keep drifting to one side. Sorry about that. So yeah, which also proves that, quite frankly, quality control at BS&R was good, but in some ways maybe not so good, only in that all they cared about was producing, you know frying pans that could be used. And if those frying pans had little things wrong with them that did not affect the actual cooking, then they really didn't care about it. And things like maybe this awkward, this hanging hole here, or the way that some of them had casting flaws, and other things like that. Yeah, Dean Reedy, I have S series in my lie tank as well. Took forever to find them all, and a giant mark number four a ghost mark four on 5S. Yeah, the 5S is the rarest of the three of that S series, and I don't have one yet myself either. I've managed to find a 7S, and I've managed to find this unusual 3S, but I have not yet found a 5S. And apparently, a large number of those 5S did, in fact, have the four ghost mark, because I've actually seen a fair number of them. Here, on the other hand, is the 7S. And as you can see, it ain't no BS either. But yes, here's a 7S that I was lucky enough to score at an antique mall. In fact, it's the one in southern Pennsylvania, the Black Rose Antique Mall. I've talked about that a couple of times. So yeah, that's the one nice thing as well. It's like having just a little bit of knowledge of cast iron. Not me, I'm saying anybody in general. Having just a little bit of knowledge goes a long way towards finding a real good score if you're lucky and the seller really doesn't know what they have on their hand. I mean, I scored this 7S for, I think it was $22, something like that. I'm not sure. And if I remember right, I paid, yeah, no, at the Brimfield Antique Show, I paid $15 for this handwritten five, Red Mountain number five. So yeah, most of my Red Mountain pans I've managed to find at what I think was a good bargain. Even the point of this Red Mountain Dutch oven here, this number 8 Dutch oven. I Okay, clock, I hear you. Weather's been sucky. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been quite a summer, that's for sure, definitely. Pigeon Forge in Tennessee near Dollywood flooded on Sunday. Ooh, sorry to hear that. I hope the folks there are all right. I mean, the first concern's for the people. I mean, yeah, I know there's the lodge store in Dollywood and everything like that, but I hope people at least were not hurt. Oh, you can still see Popeye cartoons Sunday morning. Oh yeah, I guess you're talking about my shirt. Yes, indeed. I've actually been a Popeye fan my entire life, ever since I was a little kid. So yeah, I have a DVD collection of the Fleischer, of the original black and white Popeye series, going from the black and white ones all the way up to the World War II era. Okay, there was a time that pans were $1 per inch. Um, I'm not sure how the pricing went, but yeah, BS&R were definitely among the cheaper frying pans that you could get in those days. Yeah, they're now like $10 a pound. Yeah, if only it's $10 a pound for some pans. Now that the BS&R name is starting to become somewhat more well known among antique vendors, prices are going up. naturally, which only means, of course, that the treasure hunt is getting a little harder, but that's to be expected, because that's just it. They're just looking for whatever they can to try to make as much money as possible, which has always been the case. I mean, as you know, antique vendors will just see anything with the Griswold name on it and slap a high price on it, whatever it is. If it says Griswold, they probably double the price for it. And while we're not at that point with BS&R yet, a number of antique malls do actually have pans out there now that labeled as BSR. They probably don't even know what BSR is, but they know it's a BSR pan. And so hopefully that would be a selling point. I think some of the cast iron pans were sold by the pound. They probably were, especially to retailers in those days. Yeah, not too many found in Central Coast California. Yeah, Thomas Camacho. Yeah, I understand there being so far out there, but even out there, I would think that they can probably still be found, even if it may take some searching. I mean, after all, again, they ship them all over the country. Fuzz Fork, what was the biggest BS&R skillet they made? The biggest BS&R skillet they made was the jumbo skillet that they made very briefly in the 1980s. And I have never seen one, never mind acquired one. But it was a 20-inch cast iron skillet. There are photos of it online, and I have photos as well on my website of the jumbo skillet. They made this very briefly, as I said, in the 1980s. It was so big. How big was it? It was so big that every one of the jumbo skillets had actually a gate mark in the very center of the pan. Most of the time, they didn't really even bother to ground. Well, no, I think they ground it down a little bit, so there was nowhere near like a 19th century gate mark pan, but it was still very, very noticeable. However, nobody cared about that because what they cared about was having a big, huge cast iron pan. Yeah, I know that Lodge also made 20-inch skillets, and they called them hotel skillets. Usually, I guess they were sold to like the restaurant and hotel industry, because only those businesses typically had stoves large enough to fit those pans. But yes, that was the largest skillet that BS&R made. Other than that, well, then there is, of course, the number 14 size skillet that, well, we know this all too well, or on this channel anyway, because my BS&R number 14 is definitely one of my most most often used and one of my favorite pans in my collection. Well, I have a lot of favorite pans in my collection. No, correction. I don't have a lot of favorite stove pans, but I have a lot of pans that I'm really fond of, especially good old Stumpy. Yes, indeed. We've seen this guy a lot. He is, of course, my Century series BS&R number 14 skillet. And that's the thing is he has a made in USA mark on the top, which is how we can definitely confirm that he is a Century series made from like say maybe 1967 or later. So even though he only has a number 14 on the bottom, and not the whole NO number 14. For several years, when BS&R went to automated production, the number 14 and the number 12, it took them at least a couple years, maybe a few years, before they changed from just simply putting a 12 and a 14 on their skillet, before they finally went to the NO number 12 and number 14. In fact, it's recently been determined, and yeah, that I've determined as well that many of those BS&R number 12 skillets out there being sold as Red Mountain number 12 are not number 12 skillets. It's starting to seem as though the BS&R number 12 skillet, the Red Mountain number 12, seems to be much more rare than people thought. In that, yes, they made them. I mean, they were not non-existent, but apparently that number 12 in particular they seem to have made a low quantity of those pans, even to the point where the number 12 skillet is actually not even sold in the early 1950s BS&R catalog. I've got a copy of it. It's available online, and it's on that Facebook group that I mentioned for BS&R. If you look in the listing of their skillets, it does not show a number 12 for sale at all. And this was the Red Mountain era, mind you. Also not in that catalog was the number 10 Dutch oven. So, yeah, that's one of those mysteries that they're still looking into. But anyway, that's why I have seen listings on eBay for BS&R Red Mountain number 12 skillets in particular. And I think almost all of them are actually Century series skillets made during their Dysa automated production era. I believe I may have seen a couple that could more positively be identified as Red Mountain, but they're actually much more rare than we originally thought. And there's a notice on my thing that's shown up here that I need to close out. Griswold 9 looking for a buyer. Well, that's somebody else. Okay. All right, Calamity. Dang, Calamity. What is Calamity here? Monkey Wrench. Rusty Iron in another book is in the works, but the author of the first BSR book. Oh yeah, yeah. The first BSR book was authored by Jason Walker, the moderator of the BSNR Facebook group. Rusty said it's coming along the book. Oh, I see. That was over 6, 7 months ago. Oh, I see. Somebody else is compiling a BSNR book. Okay. Well, best of luck. I'd certainly like to read it. Rusty, I'm sorry to ask on your channel, and you do not have to answer. Although I know you follow Steve Strong, is there any word on him writing a book on Birmingham Stove Range? I have heard. I have to be honest in that I have not been closely following Steve Strong. Um, his channel on YouTube has become less active than it used to be. And I am not blaming him for that. I mean, of course, you understand. I mean, everybody here who runs these YouTube channels, you are, and everybody is entirely free to run their channel as they think, as they want. And if they start getting tired of it and stop producing videos on a regular basis, well, that's their business. So I'm not going to complain about that, especially since we get to watch them for free. But I have not been following Steve Strong regularly, so I don't really have any information about the BS&R book, I'm sorry to say. One thing I've come to love is the artwork on the bottoms of the new pans. Yes, as I said, they have been putting a lot of effort in the new cast iron pans, really, to make them look like works of art. And I'm not being facetious when I say that. You really can consider these pans to be a work of art. Well, here's one that I scored recently at the National Cornbread Festival. The Lodge Museum of Cast Iron Skillet. This one, of course, that has their wonderful hammered lodge pattern, as well as being a 3-notch. So yeah, this is definitely made to be a collector's item, no question about that. But if we're talking about the newer modern day cast iron pans, I will also agree with that. Such as, well, here's one. The Stargazer cast iron skillet. Yeah, exactly. The designs on these things certainly do look very attractive, and I'm certainly not disagreeing with that. Of course, I know that. Well, you realize as well, the market has changed entirely. Not to mention the entire environment, which is why the newer, smaller cast iron companies like Butter Pat, well now Yeti, and Field and Stargazer and all that, they have to put much higher prices on their pans because the market is completely different. And that's one reason why they make their pans look like a work of art, so that they will be more appealing and hopefully more people will buy them, which is how business goes, of course. So, well, thank you again, Rusty Iron. William Hurt, I work at an Ace Hardware, and we will be getting the Lodge 100-year Ace commemorative pans. Warehouse is out for now. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's nice, actually. 100-year anniversary for Ace Hardware. Nice. I've got a number 3 size 100-year anniversary of, what was it? Oh my god! Oh yeah, the moon pie. How could I forget? So yeah, it's a nice little collector skillet to have, and I'm glad to have it. So yeah, Ace Hardware has a 100th anniversary skillet made by Lodge. I may want to take a look at that. I may get one of those Ace pans. Exactly. I'll be getting my pan for a terrific discount. I should send you my address. Yeah. Well, okay. If you're going to be trading cast iron here, you certainly can. Okay, I'll be watching at the local Ace Hardware stores. Yeah, well, thank you for the news. It's definitely something to keep an eye out for because, yeah, a lot of people have an Ace Hardware in their area. I think I do too. I'll keep an eye out for it. Although, as I mentioned already, we're talking about, well, yeah, no, as I did say already, you can, I mean, really, no question about cast iron is off limits here on this channel, so that's completely fine. Let's talk about your employee discount. Exactly. That certainly helps. I have no doubt about that. Although, um, okay, I've been already brought about BS&R. Yeah, that's right. How some red mountain pans are more rare than others. And that's why I am really of the opinion that I'm still of the opinion that no, you cannot label all of these as early century pans. This is, of course, is the later Red Mountain series because it has the more standardized and professional looking font on the size number, as well as having smaller ears as well, the smaller pour spouts too. So I know that there are some Facebook groups now that would immediately label this as that's an early century. That's not a red mountain. I will disagree with that, in that it could very well be an early century. It could also be a later red mountain, and there's simply no way for us to tell. The thing is, and in fact, oh yeah, I just released only like an hour ago. In fact, I did a short video that actually talks about this very subject. I wanted it to be a YouTube short, but I really could not get that into 60 seconds. So it turned out to be like maybe about 2.5 minutes long instead. But it's there on my channel, talking about the difference between the Red Mountain and the early Century series. My opinion, and this is only my opinion because I don't have anything to back it up yet, is that I do not think that this design of the pan with the standardized font and the smaller ears, I do not think this particular style was put into place at exactly the same time they renamed their line to Century Cookware. First of all, BS&R did tend to do these things gradually. They did not simply have any kind of a cutoff date where they stopped using the labels for Red Mountain and started using the labels for Century Cookware. More importantly, the fact is that these particular designs of the Red Mountain pans are so common that you can find them just about anywhere today. They made a huge number of those pans, and they are still out there. And even today at flea markets and antique malls and the like, you can come across a pan that looks very similar to this. And for BS&R to have produced such an enormous number of these pans as compared to the handwritten pans, this would have to mean that they would have had to have transitioned from the handwritten design to the more standardized design before the 1950s. I would really want to estimate that these pans were probably started being produced like maybe around the 1940s or so, maybe even the later 1930s. We don't know, or I don't know. But I would actually give it more of an estimate of the date of manufacture of this pan to be somewhere from the 1940s to the 1960s, which means this pan could have had a label on it that either said Red Mountain or Century Cookware. We simply don't know. And that's why I still call it a Red Mountain pan. I call it a Red Mountain pan, possibly early century. And that's my opinion. And I will stand by my opinion. So I know there are people there who can tell me what I can do with my opinion. But it's my opinion, and as I said, I'm gonna stand by it. So Did Grizz ever make a chef's skillet? Um, uh, ask the. I myself would say no. I do not recall seeing a Griswold chef skillet. I might be wrong. There are Griswold experts who could probably name every single brand or model of the pans that Griswold ever produced. But I don't think Griswold made a chef skillet, or if they did, it must have been extremely rare. Wagner chef skillets are much more known. And of course, there was the time in the 50s to 60s when naturally Wagner and Griswold were owned by the same company. But I personally do not seem to recall ever seeing a chef skillet with the Griswold logo on it. So I will say no, but I could be wrong, and you may want to double check on that. I have a Griswold Wagnerware. Well, there we go. I have a Griswold Wagnerware chef skillet in my lye tank. Yeah, exactly, Kevin Brown. That is exactly what I said when they were both owned by the same company. I have little doubt that that Griswold Wagnerware chef skillet has the same design of a Wagner chef skillet, which means it was produced, of course, in the Wagner foundry in Sydney. So my BS&R chef skillet is the best. Yeah, ain't my fault. I used to hit those good finds. I don't know if I ever told this that I missed the opportunity right here in Binghamton to get a BS&R chef skillet. Shortly after I moved here about 2 years ago, I went to my favorite flea market. I've talked about this flea market that it is out just outside the Binghamton area, where I've managed to score some decent cast iron. But I went there on a Sunday morning and I saw it. It was a BS&R 10 chef. It was a BS&R chef skillet. And I didn't have any money on me. So I had to run. No, and that particular flea market does not have an ATM. I had to run like maybe about take drive about half a mile down the road to the local um, Dollar General, get money, come back. And of course, when I came back, that pan was gone. I missed it. So I missed the opportunity to get a BSR chef skillet. Yeah, I'm kicking myself over it, but what can you do? I have one of the first Wagner chef skillet that was made regular handle 1389. Well, congratulations then, Corey Clark. What era would you say that would be? 1940s, maybe? I mean, if it's a chef skillet, then it would have to have a rounded bottom on it, not the angled bottom of the earlier Wagners. So I would hazard a guess that it would be from their 1930s to 1940s period. Although I'm just guessing based on what little I know about Wagner, that is. Always the way, perfect fine, and it gets scooped. Yeah, exactly. It happens to everybody. And yeah, that's just it. If I let it eat at me, then I would be a mess. I'd be a mess of nerves. So I'm really not too concerned about it. Although, yeah, I kind of regret it. Well, there's always next time. Hmm. Cash is king. Yes, exactly. Even here in the 21st century. Yeah, yeah, okay. In God we trust, all others pay cash. They wouldn't do a cash app. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of people, I mean, cash apps are getting much more common, thank goodness. It's much easier to pay now, like say on Venmo or PayPal or Cash App or what's the I think it's called Cash App, isn't it? Whatever the name of it is. But anyway, um, unfortunately, this guy didn't. I had to go and get money, and so yeah, I missed my opportunity. Oh well. BSR labeled pans monkey wrench. BSR labeled pans with label called Pioneer for Sears and Roebuck. Yes, they did. That is yet another point of contention. Although in this case, we can actually debunk this one with what knowledge we do have of BSR. The Pioneer series was in fact just the Century Cookware series with a different label on it. Like you said, it was made for places like Sears and Roebuck. Sears, of course, was well known for having its own brands, which were essentially the same brand, the same things made by other companies, but just given a different name for Sears. Yeah, I mean, that's well known, Sears and its Kenmore series, for instance, and likewise the Pioneer series. And I believe even the Puritan cast iron pans, the ones that were made both by Griswold and by Favorite, I believe they sold those at Sears as well. But yes, Sears, yeah, there was the Pioneer series, which were basically just BS&R pans, Century pans with with the Pioneer label on them. And then we come to the knob lid. Those of you who are as much cast iron geeks as I am when it comes to BS&R know that there are BS&R lids out there that actually have a hole in them because they had a knob screwed into them instead of the permanent handle that we see on most BSR lids. I've been looking for one of those lids just to have it, and I have not been able to find it yet. Maybe one of these days. And it was said among the geek crowd that those knob lids were made for the Pioneer series, and this is not true. The Pioneer series are just Century pans with a different label on them. What's been generally assumed to have happened with those knob lids, when BS&R first began its automated production, they tried other ways of producing lids because apparently it's tricky and therefore a little more expensive because of quality control to produce a cast iron lid with a single handle on it that's all done in one piece. Because I guess you have to run you have to have a machine just to run a little spike or something through the hot iron in order to produce this lid, or however it works. I Anyway, the point being is that they tried to cut costs, and cutting costs with BS&R, that was the reason why they began producing. I know I've got one here somewhere. They began producing those handles with those lids that have the tab handles on them instead of the regular handles. They did that as a cost cutting measure, and that's why the camp oven lids, in particular, from the dies, the later Century series, they all had tab handles on them instead of handles. And yes, for a very brief period of time, maybe a couple of years, they produced those knob handled lids because they at first thought it was less expensive to make the knobs separately. Except that it turned out that it was not less expensive because they had to produce those knobs separately, and they had to produce a screw for every lid, and they'd have to hire a worker to manually screw that knob into every lid. Apparently, there was not an automated production machine that would automatically screw the knob into the lid. So the cost wasn't worth it, and they went back to just simply producing the standard lids. And that's the story of the knob lid and the Pioneer series. Pioneer is interesting really for collecting reasons more than anything else, because other than that, they are the exact same cast iron pans. But yeah, I mean, having a cast iron pan with the original label is something special. I will not deny that either. So, okay, and there's another pop up announcement that I need to close here. Okay. Cynthia Wesley, if you have the red book, it's on page 22, except mine is unmarked. Yeah, not a fan of knob handled lids. Seem cheap to me. They are cheap. As I said, it was a cost cutting measure. Fact is that BS&R was a company, and they did try to do things cheap. They wanted to save money. They wanted to make revenue. They sold their pans cheap, so they had to produce them even cheaper. I mean, you can't deny that. Which is another reason why they just made just basic frying pans. As far as they were concerned, they were a product to be sold. All right. I read history from other means. You can't just stop at one. Yeah, yeah, I know you never can. I have a 10-inch tab handle. Would like to have the camp pot with legs. Yeah. Um, I'm lucky enough to have a BS&R camp spider, which I've used a few times, and I would like to get some more use out of it as well. I once I was sorely tempted, but decided not to pay about $90 for a BS&R 12-inch camp oven with legs and a lid. Um, yeah, and I'm in some ways I'm kind of regretting it, but I really don't have that much use for a camp oven. I mean, just about all of my cooking is done inside. So I passed up on it. And I have mentioned already as well that I'm lucky enough. Let me dig this thing out now. That I'm lucky enough to own a genuinely rare item, which is a BS&R 13-inch camp oven lid. That I managed to score this from eBay even before I knew what it was. And when I discovered that this is a BS&R camp oven lid, I was ecstatic. So yeah, it is a very rare Red Mountain Series 13-inch camp oven lid. And the rare part is because it's 13-inch. This is one of those things where I'm probably going to be looking for the rest of my life for an actual 13-inch spider or camp oven to match this lid. One of these days, so just like you have your tab lid, I have this 13-inch lid. So yeah, people sometimes ask me what my holy grail of cast iron is. That's one of them. So at this point, it's like the pans I really want are extremely rare, and I may never find them for the rest of my life, but maybe I will. That's the thrill of the hunt. Papa Dan made me grab a knob handle because they're very rare and very sought after. They are getting more sought after, yes, as BS&R becomes more well known. As I'd mentioned already, you know, antique vendors who try like vultures to get their hands on and sell anything at a high price. Okay, let me stop there as well. I am not really dissing or insulting any antique vendor in particular. I'm just talking about the antique market in general, where, as I said, when you go into any antique mall, you can expect to find Griswold and Wagner cast iron at ridiculous sky high prices just because they're going after the hot names, and that's just what they do. So I'm not dissing the vendors myself. I'm not, in fact, that's why when I see those high priced Griswold and Wagner pans at antique malls, quiet. I don't buy them because I don't need them, not at that price, but I do not complain. I'm not the type of guy who's going to go up to the antique vendor and saying, boy, this is a ripoff. I could get this for like 1/3 of the price. No, I don't do that because really, again, I know he's just a guy who's just, trying to make a profit. And so that's how it goes. But getting back to that, BS&R cast iron, as I said, is getting more well known, or at least they call it BSR. You know, they don't do the ampersand, ampersand, but yeah, the end. Um, it's getting more well known among antique vendors. And so, as you said, Cynthia, your knob handle lid is probably going to go up in price as BSR cast iron becomes more well known and more collectible. Several years ago, I got a message from one of the administrators of the cast iron cooking group on Facebook, the group that I founded. And I do not mention names. The person has not been a moderator of that group for at least 10 years now. But nonetheless, he actually chastised me, saying that my website was putting out information which really should not be well known because it's driving up the prices in the antique market. And my reply to him, a polite reply, I did not have an argument or anything. My reply was, that information is going to get out there one way or another. Without my website, it would still get out there. So I really do not feel like I am contributing to the prices going up. It's a slim chance. They're very hard to find or very expensive. Yes, exactly, Corey Clark. And of course, as we know, that's the thrill of the treasure hunt. if because of the small possibility that we may very well come across something really valuable at a good price at a place like a flea market or a garage sale or anything. Oh yeah, I think I'll mention briefly. You know how last weekend I was so excited to go on my first highway yard sale here in New York, the Route 90 highway yard sale. Okay. Now that I've experienced a highway yard sale, here's my feelings about it. I loved it. I loved the experience of just driving down a highway and I could not drive for more than like maybe 1 to 2 minutes before seeing another place that I had to stop at again and again and again. All new yard sales, pretty much as far as the eye could see. On the other hand, the cast iron I saw, I was quite disappointed. I saw some nice pans, but yeah, I mean, again, I ended up getting only one unknown pan that might be that might be a Wagner, and that pan is in my live tank right now. I saw some okay cast iron. Most of it is the type of stuff that I would turn away from. Yeah, I saw one guy who had a fair amount of cast iron, almost all of which he had, well, he had used a wire wheel on them, for instance. That included that Carlisle Dutch oven that I posted a picture on last week. Most of the places where that actually had a cast iron pan or two had the usual stuff. You know, a Griswold, a rusty Griswold sporting a price of like $50 to $60. Or on the other hand, there was one site that had a stack of painted skillets, Lodge, and I think unmarked Wagner as well. They had been coated with paint. At that same place, though, I saw the best bargain that I saw on that particular highway yard sale, where there was one guy he was selling not one but two unmarked Wagner number 8 skillets for about $15 each. That wouldn't have been a bad price. I don't need a number 8 unmarked Wagner, but if somebody needed it, that wouldn't have been a bad price. But those kind of deals, I did not really find anything like that on that highway yard sale. So for cast iron, I was disappointed. The experience of going on the yards of the highway yard sale, though, was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was really that was really a lot of fun. And yeah, for that reason, I will probably go back on that highway yard sale again next year. Okay. Route 30 yard sale runs August 8th, 9th, and 10th. Yes, exactly. I also learned that on these kind of highway yard sales, there is absolutely no way you are going to come anywhere close to finding everything. I mean, again, I was out there for 6 hours, and I think I maybe made it about 20 miles into this 50-mile yard sale. So when we're considering things like the world's longest yard sale, which goes on for hundreds of miles, oof, oh man, there's no way in the world any one person could do that. I mean, as you know, I've gone several times to the Brimfield Antique Show, and even though it took the entire day, I felt like I was able to get almost all, well, a sight, not buy, but at least discover almost all of the cast iron that they had on sale there, which I guess is why I've been able to make some good scores at Brimfield. Ugh, so yeah, it's definitely a different experience. In terms of the vendors and the stuff for sale there, that highway, hold on, why do I have a call coming in? Oh, I can't do it. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah. In terms of the amount of stuff being sold at the highway yard sales, it was enormous, probably even bigger than Brimfield. The quality of the stuff being sold was not as good as Brimfield because they are, well, yard sales as opposed to professionals. There were some actual antique vendors along that highway yard sale too, but that's how it goes. And that's pretty much all I could say about the highway yard sales, I think. Them highway yard sales, you should ask if they have any, because a lot of people don't think people want cruddy old cast iron pans. Oh yes, no, I made a point of that. Whenever I made a stop, I did casually mention, I'm looking for old cast iron frying pans. And every single time they said, no, sorry, I don't have any. Well, there was one guy who said, I had some yesterday, but somebody else got it. so, so in my case in particular, I was unfortunately not that lucky. I just got a text probably from the same person who just called me. Okay, no, I can't do it. So, okay. It is my opinion that the number 6 century pan is rarer, and I've only found two in 4 years here in Ohio. Yes, yeah, Monkey Wrench. I think you're right. For BSR in particular, there are some rare numbers, and I would agree that number 6 is one of them. On the BS&R Facebook group, we've seen pictures of the number 6. A number of people have managed to find the number 6. But I agree, it is rare. Oh, although now that I've said that, here it is. Here's a number 6 lid, a tab lid, no less. And well, actually, this is not a number 6. Well, no, it is made by BSR, but it was not a skillet lid. This, I think, was the lid probably for their Franklin bean pot, but it's definitely number 6 size. So yeah, it is out there. But yeah, no, the number 6, I would agree that the number 6 is a rare size for BS&R. In fact, a number of those sizes they stopped making completely in the Century series, although they did make the Century series number 6. The other rare number for BS&R was number 9. Yeah, I have yet to see a BS&R number 9 myself, although again, I've seen photos of a few. I don't I'm believe in the Red Mountain series. I No, even in the Red Mountain series, I don't think they ever made a number 11 or a number 13. They did make number 4s, and 4 is another unusual one, but again, rare. So yeah, there we go. On the other hand, number 7 was much more common with BS&R, much more common than, say, oh, well, no, I can't even say that. Griswold and Lodge also made number 7s. With Lodge, number 9 seems to be a rare size. Um, I have had trouble even finding a Lodge number 9. With their modern day cast iron pans, I do believe they've made ones that are the equivalent of a number 9. But the actual number 9 is a rare number for Lodge, as well as BSR. Lodge didn't work either, a week and a half. Yeah. All right. Around here, I asked elderly folks if they had any they don't use, and if they usually do have some. I pay them a fair price. Well, that's good, Corey. At least yeah, yeah, at least that cast iron is getting some use. So yes. Well, my mom gave me most of her bigger pans when she started having trouble lifting them. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality of cast iron. So, I mean, that's like it or not, it's a fact of life for all of us. So, yeah, my condolences. But, well, at least she was able to pass it on to you, and you're able to give it some more use. Um, you know, let's be positive about that, I guess. Mm. Nice. We're already at about 10 past 9. That's what it's like when I get into these conversations. And I hope folks don't mind. I have a 36 Century and an unmarked Wagner. Maybe you mean a number 6 century? Well, again, if so, then congratulations on that. The unmarked Wagners, of course, are those very common pans that even antique vendors really don't care too much about them. Some of them try to give it a high price and call it an unmarked Wagner, but an unmarked Wagner is probably, for a lot of people, an unmarked Wagner may very well be your first vintage cast iron pan. One man gathers what another man spills. Also, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Lodge made a number 9 a few years ago, which was sold exclusively through Costco with a silicone handle protector. course, I needed one, which means you've got it now, Jim. I have no doubt that. What you also have is cast ironitis. Welcome to Cast Ironitis Anonymous. That's for sure. I want a number nine anything. Yeah. Um, trying to think in regards to number nine, what I do have. Oh yeah, I showed this out. I showed this before, and I might as well bring it out again. The number nine that I have of all things is my gate marked fancy handle pan. This, yeah, I've shown this one before. This is the fancy handle from the 1800s. This is a fancy handle pan. It's about the thinnest and lightest skillet of this size, so I'm very happy to have it. And I've told this story before, so I'll be brief. I got this at the Brimfield Antique Show, and in fact, it came with this Griswold number nine lid that fits it perfectly. I paid the guy $25 for this combination, and he told me right then most of it was for the lid. He was really selling the lid. He didn't even care about the pan. So, but ever since then, I have had a Griswold number nine lid. Oh yeah, how could I forget? I did for a few years have a Wagner number nine Dutch oven, and I loved it. I got a lot of use out of it, and then it cracked. I cracked. It didn't just crack, it actually broke. I think in fact it might have been knocked off of my shelf when I was away from home, when my apartment complex sent people in to install sprinkler pipes, but I was never able to prove anything. Anyway, for the longest time, I had a Wagner number nine Dutch oven, and yeah, like I said, I really, really enjoyed it. Oh yeah, how could I forget? I also have my Wagner number nine chicken fryer, which is in the lye tank right now. All right, I have got to really schedule a time to finally clean out the lye tank and get that stuff out of there and get it seasoned. And I've got to do it soon, like maybe in the next couple of weeks or so. Yeah, I have the number nine vintage lodge lid, and congratulations, Cynthia, as well. Yes. I have one of those lodge number nine lids with a square detail on the handle. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I really love people's collections here. Folks like you, everybody who's gone out of their way to hunt for cast iron, and every so often you make this wonderful score, something that just really can't compare um, when you go looking in the antique malls. When I went to the National Cornbread Festival this year, there was a gathering of lodge collectors, of course. I posted a short video about it. That was the one where I interviewed those people and I asked them, how many pieces do you have? I've got 1,000 pieces. I've got 1,000 pieces. I've got 7,000 pieces. That's on my short videos. And at that little meeting, a number of people had brought out some pieces from their collection to show off, and they were wonderful pieces. I mean, believe me, what I saw in the antique malls during that trip to Tennessee and back, they all paled compared to the amazing cast iron pieces that were shown off at that gathering there. Heck, I might even just go back to the National Cornbread Festival next year, just to go to another gathering like that. It was incredible. But yeah, it's personal collections like that. I mean, are just so wonderful because just about anybody in this hobby who has managed to make at least one decent score, and you've got something really special. And I'm proud of you for whatever it is that you have that is truly special. Because of course, you know what it is, and you take care of it. Okay, and funky, that's true. Rich from my blood. Yeah, Mark Sieber. I got a number nine Wagner round roaster. Nice, very funky, rusty, crusty, cleaning up nicely. I think that's exactly what I had for my number nine Dutch oven. So congratulations on that. If it has the star-like pattern on the spike on underneath the lid, then you definitely have the Dutch oven that I had. As I said, I got a lot of use out of it until it was broken. Let me see here. What did Monkey score? Let me scroll up these comments a little bit. I wouldn't give mine up. Yeah, exactly. I'd have a home nurse cook for me. Okay, Corey Clark. Around here, I asked Ellie. No, I said that part already. Jim Glether. Okay, well, I seem to have missed. Oh, there it is, Monkey Wrench. Now I missed it. Pastor. I bought a number 9. Oh, I see. Only one I bought at full price. I paid $145 for it and drove 130 miles one way to get it. Oh, then I can only hope that you did get yourself, that you've gotten a lot of good use out of it, then, Monkey Wrench. That's for sure. Will we ever find our Grizz parts? Well, I can only hope so. And what was this at the bottom here? Hi, I'm Monkey and I have a BS&R problem. Oh, that's what you're talking about. It was $145 for my BS&R number 9. Didn't even get me to blink an eye. Wow. Yeah, that's cast ironitis, all right. You know, I'm not sure if I would do that. Even though it would be nice to own a BS&R number 9, well, that's just me. I don't think I'm even going to finish that little sentence because everybody is different. I mean, I've got a couple of things that I have indeed paid through the nose for, like my cauldron, for instance, which I've talked about. And I paid $100 for the poiki as well. And there are a couple of other pans that I really paid more than I should have for it, although I'm proud that I've gotten a fair number of bargains. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you feel it was worth it to drive all that way and pay 145 for a number 9 BS&R, then again, congratulations. Again, I can only hope you get a lot of good use out of it. That's really what they're coming down to, exactly. But without the drive, yeah. Okay. Monkey Ranch. I found a Griswold number 9 slant block for $12 at the thrift store. Holy cow. Now that is an incredible score. And yeah, as we know, with Griswold, actually, number 9 is more common than it is with Lodge or BS&R. I've seen Griswold number 9s a number of times. I even saw a Griswold number 9 Dutch oven at, I think it was at Brimfield again. So, but yeah, number 9, a Griswold number 9 slant logo for $12. Sheesh. Believe me, if I came across something like that, yeah, I would throw the money at the guy and grab it and run. Whether or not I need a number 9. I just made dinner in my number 8 Wapek or Waypack Z. Nice. It's pitted but cooked great. Got it at a thrift store when I started buying pans, cost me $12. Well, that sounds like you've got yourself a good deal there because obviously you've been cooking in that pan for years. So you most definitely got $12 worth out of it. I would say keep on using that pan, use the hell out of it, and enjoy it. That's really the best thing to do. You got yourself a gold medal. Yes, exactly. Even more so than in the Paris Olympics. All right. Love potion number 9. Well, better than Rick potion number 9, that's for sure. Okay. I think we may be starting to get to the end of this, largely because, well, kind of gotten away from the subject of BS&R Century versus Red Mountain, but I don't mind at all. I would rather have fun in this conversation, and this conversation has been fun, that's for sure. I buy pans to use, and this works great. Exactly. That is the best reason, really, to get cast iron. I do my best to try to make my collection all users. It's difficult, but I do try to rotate through my collection as best as I can. And yeah, that's why I'm glad at least now for the last 3 weeks I've been able to get at least one cooking video out per week. So I'm happy about that. Like that as you saw today, I managed to get that video done for chili mac and cheese, which turned out great, by the way. That was a really easy dish to make. It's one of those things you could throw together after work. Everybody makes goulash or American chop suey or slumgullion or whatever you call it. You know the kind. You know that dish we all make, which is basically ground beef hamburg with tomato sauce or ketchup or other things and a whole lot of elbow macaroni mixed in. We all have that dish. We all love that dish. Well, again, I just did a video today where I just simply added a couple of extra ingredients and took it up a notch. So that instead of just ground beef and elbow macaroni, we've got chili with mac and cheese. And boy, did that taste good. Give it a try. I think you'll love it, and I think your kids will love it too. So, mac and cheese bunt cake. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm quite proud of the mac and cheese bunt cake too. So yeah, that's another thing. Again, I would hope that somebody gives it a try, and because I think you'll like it. I certainly did. All right, getting on to it. I just splurged on the Stargazer 12-inch. Wow. Congratulations, TJ Miller. I have no doubt that you're not going to regret it because, of course, this means that you're going to have a really wonderful cast iron pan that you're certainly going to be cooking with for the rest of your life. So I can only say congratulations on that. Be sure to use it a lot. Oh, pan crack. I mean, pan crack. JR finishes. Have you ever had a panic attack crack? Oh, pan crack. Um, as I said, I had that Dutch oven, the Wagner number 9 Dutch oven. I think it was knocked over and broken when I was away from home. I have not yet had any of my pans crack on me, and I'm very pleased about that. I have found a number of them with cracks, yes, and that was never fun. But I really cannot recall ever having any of my pans crack. Thank goodness, and hopefully it never will. I've told the story of my BS&R number 12 Dutch oven, the one that I'm certain was salvaged from a house fire. It's a spinner and it's definitely fire damaged. And there is the risk that one of these days it could very well crack. And that's one reason why, in fact, among my holy grails of cast iron that I want to get, I want to find a BS&R Red Mountain number 12 Dutch oven to replace that fire damaged Century Dutch oven. Who knows? Maybe one of these days. Hopefully it'll happen. Oh yeah, I had one pop when I took it outside in the cold. Ooh, sorry to hear that, Corey Clark. I've had a few pans crack only when seasoning. Must have been a small hidden to me crack. Yes, exactly. I cracked the number 3 Griswold by overheating it. Yep. It does happen. And that's another reason why I have very little res- no, I don't think respect is the right word, but I really do not trust people who say I throw my cast iron pan in the fire all the time to clean it, and it's as good now as the day it was made. I seriously doubt that, folks. Okay, I got a number 12-inch Stargazer about a month ago. I'm waiting for my kitchen renovation to finish before I start seasoning it. Oh, well, it gives you something to look forward to, that's for sure. I am Radagast. I am now the owner of a number 3 hammered nickel-plated single-notch lodge skillet. Nice! Now, there's a real collector's item. I have not. I've only once have I had a plated skillet, and I ended up giving it away because I really did not know how to take care of it. I did not know how to clean it. So, but that's just me. The best I could say once again is get some good use out of it. That's for sure. Dean, I had one do that too. A Lodge, they replaced it. Oh yeah, that's right. Lodge definitely has world class customer service, and it's not uncommon if somebody orders something a Lodge pan from maybe Lodge or Amazon or Walmart or whatever, and it arrives cracked. If that happens, take your receipt, give Lodge customer service a call, and you're pretty much guaranteed that they will ship you a replacement for free and they'll let you keep the original too. So definitely that is world class customer service there. And that is one thing we say about Lodge cast iron. People complain about Lodge cast iron's rough surface, but Lodge is a world class company. And as such, I am very pleased and proud to be a user of Lodge cast iron. And they're not even paying me to say that. I've never cracked or warped one, but I sure messed up some seasoning in my time. Yes, I have actually warped a couple of my pans. That's true. I told that story. I forgot it on an electric stove when drying it. Ouch. Sorry to hear that, Val. How hot when it cracked? Um, if the crack was already there, it may not have even been that hot. But yeah, I learned the hard way. If you have an electric stove, do not ever, and I mean ever, do not ever heat up a cast iron pan on an electric stove to its maximum, because that over time you indeed can very well warp or maybe even crack your cast iron pan. On an electric stove, I would advise never give heat your cast iron to maybe any more than 3/4 of maximum on an electric stove. And really, there are very few times when you even need to put it that high. On an electric stove or even on my gas stove, I rarely need to heat up my pan more than halfway. I would rather just do that and wait like about 10 minutes or so, low and slow, and heat it up that way rather than blast it and run the risk of damaging the pan. Nicole McGrath, I would never break into this man's house. He has all those awesome weapons in his kitchen. Oh, okay. I had to hide the pan from my mom. I was glad you had three of them. Oh, yeah. Large cast iron skillets are great. No question about it. Cooking techniques are different for the first 30 days or so. Yes, that is true. And that's why, again, I do not have a problem with modern day cast iron. Modern day cast iron is not better than vintage cast iron, it is different from vintage cast iron. Vintage cast iron has a lot of wonderful reasons to get it and use it, being glass smooth, the history you get from vintage cast iron, that's all very much a plus. On the other hand, large modern day cast iron is also a plus because, well, it's harder to warp, but it can be done. It's durable. It is. I like thicker cast iron as opposed to thinner cast iron. I think it cooks better, and just as important, it can be replaced. If your large cast iron skillet is stolen, you can always go and get another one at Walmart. Well, unless you've got a special cast iron pan from Lodge, and they're producing a lot of those special cast iron pans these days. But if you've got a typical Lodge 10-inch cast iron pan, give it away as a Christmas present and then get another one or get one for somebody. Because just that. It's nice to have a cast iron pan that you can find anywhere and it is still an excellent cooker. All right. JR finishes. A friend using my inherited Wagner chicken fryer heated it up on high on an electric stove. It's a spinner now. Ouch. I'm very sorry to hear that, JR. Hopefully, he will replace it for you. Yeah, right. I know. Yep, and that's how I've always done it. Put it on dry and walk away. Exactly. Lord have mercy. Yeah, I've done that too. Ugh, just have to be careful. That's all. Cast iron doubles as a weapon. Oh yeah, no, that's a lot. That's well known as well. So, and yeah, I know you can use it to beat off somebody who. Well, correction. You can beat it to defend your. You can use it to defend yourself from an attacker. Yeah, that is certainly true. I have not had any reason to do that, and hopefully, I never will. I wish someone would ask to borrow or touch my iron. They're getting 25 to life. Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. At this point, I think we are getting on. It's getting close to 9:30 here, and as I said, I am definitely off the original topic. Not that I mind, because again, this conversation when I get caught up in conversations like this, I could just keep on going and going and going, and the time just flies by, and that's the best kind. That's what I really like. You have a chef's skillet; they're fun to cook in. As a matter of fact, I do. I have the modern day Lodge Blacklock skillet, which I got especially to use as a chef skillet, and it does a great job of it too. For omelets and pancakes, well, pancakes and anything, but especially for omelets. Um, and I've tried doing crepes and have not had much luck with it. But yes, for all kinds of breakfast foods, a chef skillet is really the best thing. Oh yeah, and scrambled eggs too. And yes, and thank you very much as well to Val. Love the large chef skillet. Yes, I had a large chef skillet as well that Jeff Rogers actually polished for me, and then I ended up giving it away as a present. But I told him about that, and he said that was fine. But again, yeah, I'd say we are getting onto it because, as I said, I've said what I wanted, and I put that little video out as well, especially about the difference between BS&R, Red Mountain, and Century series, and that's why I'm still going to just call this a Red Mountain pan. It might be an early Century series pan, but I cannot guarantee it, and so I will just simply call it a Red Mountain. And that's where some folks in the say cast iron community say we will agree to disagree, and that's how I'm going to leave it, because after all, it's not rocket science, it's not politics, it's not religion, it's cast iron, and it's really here for us to cook with and to have fun with, and that's certainly what I have been doing and what I intend to keep doing. And that's why I'm doing these live videos as well, because these for me are a lot of fun. I mean, I've said this before, but that's only because I mean it. These live videos here are a lot of fun for me. They pass the time quickly, and it's largely because of you folks. You know, being here on these live chats, again, as I said, it makes the time fly by, and I really enjoy having these conversations with you folks. And I enjoy your snarky comments and everything else because, as I said, they're a lot of fun, and I that really helps encourage me to keep my channel going. I'm not asking for donations, and what I am asking for is just participation because, again, it's fun. That's really the best thing I can say there. So yeah, this was a great time. Well, thank you again to William Hurt as well, and likewise to Fuzz Fork 8. And see all of you next week. And Will and Cynthia Wesley. And have a great week as well to Val's Black Cats Rules and this and but thank you to everybody. And thank you to Greg Hart. And as I said, to everybody who's been kind enough to show up here, because again, I just do my best to have fun, and I hope you're entertained by it, especially because we're just having fun cooking. There's too much political crap. And yes, I've gotten involved with political crap too. And I probably will again once in a while. But that's not the main purpose of my channel. The main purpose of my channel is just to have fun. It's this is all very personal to me because, as I said, this is me having fun, and that's really the best reason I think to have a collection like this and to use it. And having said all that, yeah, exactly. And thank you to JR Finishes and War in Ukraine and Calamity Jane, and thank you to everybody, and thank you for a fun evening because, of course, we all have to get ready for another weekend, and then after the weekend, we got another week, and then we'll be back here again next Wednesday, where I guess I'm gonna have to get back to cooking, and we'll see what happens by next week. But until then, just take care of yourselves, everybody. I mean, after all, we're in the middle of summer. It's hot, and we don't want anybody to to be hurt or anything. So just have fun and keep on cooking and just relax. And as I like to say every week, because a quote from my favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey. See you next Wednesday.